The real you. I really like this topic because I think it's something that's quite practical, as well as being something that can uplift you in your total vibration and in your ascension path. The real you. The real you is the lasting you, or spiritually speaking, it's the eternal you. It is the you that is the expression of the higher self. It is the you that is the expression of God or source energy. Mystically speaking, we would say the God you, your God essence. And this essence is actually ineffable. It can create, and it does create. In the core of the real you is just expansion. It's just purity. Now, the false you, that is something that, sure, it is akin to the bloated part of the ego, but in particular, we look at the false you, it is actually that which is formed by outer suggestions from society around you. And you see, the problem with that is that society is overall, generally speaking, unevolved. And so as society projects and we receive the suggestion about the you or the self that you should be, it creates a false you. And now we all have this, and it's okay. But looking at this, like I say, is a bit different than looking at the ego, which is your response, your creation of a belief about what needs to sustain you. And it is you creating it in response to your perceptions of the outside world. So this false you, the way that we're looking at it today, not that this is anything that is like a vocabulary lesson and this is the ego you and this is the false you, blah, blah, blah. But just in this lesson today, we're looking at it as like the real you and the false you. And so that false you is the suggestions that come from society. And moreover, those suggestions are usually about game playing and about competition and about possibly win-lose. That in order for me to achieve something, to be able to achieve a goal, there has to be some sort of winning or advancement, because this unevolved society believes that there isn't such a thing as win-win-win. The unevolved nature of conventional society believes that it is me against you. Unevolved conventional society thinking also believes that there are good people and there are bad people, rather than the truth, which is we are family and we are one. So in a society that is generally unevolved, in terms of what true reality is, that's how it, generally society doesn't understand what true reality is, meaning that true is something that is lasting. Something that is false perishes, but something that is true is lasting, like spirit, like love. In this society, a false sense of identity builds up. And it builds up this false identity, and therefore false relationships and false conditions are formed. And these false conditions, or the conditions and relationships built upon the success of the communication or the actions of a false person or of a false self, those relationships and conditions are at best temporary. Because here's the thing, that the thing that is lasting is the real you. So if it lasts, then it will necessarily cause those conditions that were built upon a false premise to misalign. The true you, the real you, is going to be sustained, and so the conditions and relationships built upon a false sense of the self will just be misaligned. They will just perish. So even if they do these conditions or relationships built upon a false premise or a false self, even if they should survive for a certain period of time, they just will, even in that period of time, be unfulfilling and certainly ultimately unfulfilling. Now, we can all observe that in certain areas of people becoming, let's say, really wealthy. And, more money, more problems. Yes, that's true. If the money was gotten by or given to or, received by a person or a situation that was unevolved, or received by a person's false self, then yes, of course, what it's going to do is enhance, because a deluge of money is just a deluge of a certain kind of energy, and so it will enhance that which is false. It could enhance that which is true if that were the alignment. It could enhance good. So money is just energy, but if we see that it is gotten in a state of, of a false state, then it's going to enhance things that are, eventually going to lead to the downfall. So whether this is in your career or your personal life, the principle is the same. Whether it's whatever kind of situation we're talking about, for something to be real, it has to be based upon something that is real. So the real you, the lasting you. And the real you is what builds real success and real fulfillment. It's a life that is then integrated into the process and integrated into a scope of everything else that is real. So in a relationship or in a communication, let's just say it's one communication, where you are able to speak from the real you, the real other person, the other person's real self, will be able to connect to it. And then any success or failure that comes of that communication will be authentic. You see, if the communication does not lead to, let's say, you getting the new job or having a second or third date or eventually getting married to that person, if the real you is conducting the communication in the business, it's going to bring about the authentic result, the one that is lasting for you. I'm going to give you several tips on how to activate and stay attuned to the real you. And also just how to tap in further if you're not totally tapped into exactly what that feels like. I think most, if not all of you are. But I'm going to unpack this just a little bit more so we can really tap into who that real you is, what that feels like. But I will tell you that meditation, devotional time, is what helps you to stay resonant and tapped into the real you, the space of the heart, the space, like I said, that is ineffable and very pure. Meditation. Now, the reason meditation keeps you attuned to the real you and keeping that real you activated is because in meditation, we are actually bypassing the conscious mind and tapping into the subconscious mind, rather the intuitive mind. And this intuitive mind, this intuitive space, is how we stay connected to the real you. In that intuitive space, in the intuitive aspect of the being, we are in the expanded. We are in the space where we connect with the higher self and the eternal nature of the self. The conscious mind, is not something that is like always the lower mind, but the conscious mind is the creation of that subconscious intuitive mind. And so it is secondary to it. But that conscious mind is actually the one that may be receiving the influence of outside society that believes that we have to create a false us, a false self, in order to be successful. It would be held there in that essence of the real you. That is where we're going to be able to have the successful communication and the successful journey on the ascended path. And so meditation, the quiet time, the devotional time, where we actually move past that conscious mind and we move into the connection with the true self, with the inner being. Having that resonance, having that relationship every single day, I mean, that's how you build a relationship, right? You have to, if you want to build a partnership, you need to spend time with the other all the time. And this is why we need to spend time in our meditative and devotional time. And just as a note that if you feel like you aren't very good at meditation and you haven't developed a daily habit yet, well, I just want to give you a piece of advice that hopefully will relieve you, and that is, nobody's good at it until you are. That is just the nature of the human mind that has been not trained to be quiet so that we can tap into the intuitive mind. It's perfectly normal. So there's nothing wrong with you. So that's why I hope it's good news for you. A full meditation lesson, maybe that's for another day. I encourage you to get, very simply, the best way to get started or to continue to enhance it is to do it as close to first thing in the morning as possible, because we have not engaged in as much in the momentum of the day, momentum of society. We have not started, again, the thoughts from yesterday. Do you know that most people think 95% of the same thoughts today as they thought yesterday? And so since thoughts become things, well, then that math works out, right? Why are things not changing in my life? I thought 95% of the same thoughts that eventually became the same things as I thought yesterday and created yesterday. But being able to get into that real you through meditation, tap into the inner being, the creator space, the God you, where infinite possibilities, because it is your creator essence, it is the God self. That, having that contact, having that communication, that activation, that is going to change your life, because it will change your thoughts. Because you'll tap into that, you will cease the thoughts of the previous day's creations, and you will have the opportunity to clean the slate and raise your vibration. And now we have a fantastic opportunity for new thoughts, new emotions, and a tuned up frequency. This will be the signal that we now send out into the universe for us to be able to basically place our order. We got to place our order with the universe in order to receive that we want, that we came here to create as the unique being, as the unique contributor to this space. And so, again, just to give you a little practical tip, if you are trying to see how you can get that regular daily devotional time, that communication with your inner being every single day, as close to the beginning of the day as possible. After you wake up, while we sleep, we remove our consciousness from the third dimension, and we are in the space of 4D, 5D, and higher. And when we bring our consciousness back in, we are as fresh as a daisy, and this is when we can make that pure contact with the inner being. So what did I do to start a meditation practice that was regular? Well, I did it as early as I could in the morning before I did too much, and I set a timer on my phone for 10 to 12 minutes. I put the timer down, I sat there with my eyes closed, and I just focused on my breath for 10 minutes. I didn't even try to do anything else. Now, you could do a guided meditation, there's some other things to do, but just that alone, that will start to cue your mind, your conscious mind, to cease, to put down that tool, because it is a tool. It isn't our master, it is the tool. So we put down that tool. I would just breathe for 10 minutes. And the reason I set up the timer is because if I didn't set up that timer, then I would constantly be, my chatterboxy mind would be like, it's been a long time now, right? I think it's been a long time. I think it's been long enough. We should check how long it's been. And then I'd look and it's like, oh, it's been 96 seconds. Okay. All right. So that's why I put the timer on, so that I can actually disconnect from time, because I just let it tell me when a significant amount of time had passed. There you go. There's a tip. Of course, we have guided meditations, and guided meditations are fantastic. I would say after a guided meditation, maybe set up a timer and sit for at least 4 minutes with nothing, because that will give you the opportunity to just be in your own absorbed state of your inner being, and to be able to connect really profoundly with that true essence of you, the real you. I'm going to give you a few more. So obviously that meditation, that devotional time, that communication, contact, resonance with your inner being, foundational. It is primordial to the spiritual experience. I'm actually quoting a friend, someone who's going to be on my show in 2 weeks. His name is Keith Anthony Blanchard. Meditation is primordial to the spiritual life. I mean, I love the way he states that. It's primordial. It is foundational. It is fundamental to the spiritual life. How are you going to have a marriage if you don't have contact with your partner regularly? How are you going to be married to spirit if you don't have contact with spirit regularly? All right, enough of that for now. A little more Palo Santo, right? A couple more tips to be able to bring forth the real you in your situations, in your communications. So each day when you wake in the morning, you can obviously have your meditation, but you can also just take a moment, or perhaps before you walk into work or walk into a new, whatever situation is your day, take a moment and just, take a nice cleansing breath and just say to yourself that today my communications will be conducted by the real me. Just affirm that. Take a moment to feel into your heart, feel into where your pure essence is, that space of clarity, that space of expansion. And today, my communications will be conducted by the real me. That alone. And we can actually, if you have to go in and talk to your boss, you have to do something else like that, or, you can have that moment. You see, that was a micro meditation. And it was a meditation because that is what we call control meditation, where we actually are controlling our thoughts. We are taking a moment to shape our thoughts to the higher vibrational ones, rather than the ones that are lower vibrational, that are asking ourselves and asking the universe to show us the things that frighten us and the things that we don't like. We have a tendency to ask those questions and make those statements. So that is a kind of meditation as well. So another thing that we can do in order to activate the real you is that if you are able to, kind of like what I said, before you have a conversation, is take a moment to have some mental time before you're speaking to another person and really feel into that essence and just affirm to yourself that you will be continually speaking from your heart, from your real self. And that the false you, the false self, will be put aside. And you could even see that false self stepping aside for a moment. And then just know that in this space, you'll be communicating from the real you. And what's great about this is that the real you, when you're speaking from the real you, you are more relaxed. More relaxed communication is more effective. Time actually slows down. I know a lot of us are very sensitive, and intuitive people are anyway. Don't you feel when you're stressed out, you just feel like time is moving so fast and you don't even have time to think, who is the real me and what do I really think, feel, and want, and what makes me comfortable and how do I respond, or, oh, did they misunderstand me? How do I correct that? There's no time. This is something that I remember being kind of a plight for me. Well, when we are relaxed, connected to the real self, then we will have very effective communication, and we will be able to divine the communication that will reach out to the other person's real self. And again, that then will create a real relationship. That will create plans that are based upon lasting energy. Anything else, anything that is of the false self that is superficial, will fade away. Now, I just want to make one point that as we're talking about this, communicating from the real self and being the real you, this doesn't mean that we don't have any privacy. This doesn't mean that we have to tell everything to everyone all the time. And it also doesn't mean that we have to tell someone everything that we're thinking and feeling at the time. We still want to find the way that is most connected to the other person's real self. You don't have to tell everything, and you can meet people where they are, because that's how you're going to actually commune in love. Wherever love is for them, however light looks like inside of them, just let your light and your love match it. And then that's just going to change the world, and that's what we're here to do. We're not here to proselytize or convince people about the afterlife or that you can communicate with archangels or anything. I'm not here to do that. I believe in that, and I know that to be true, but I know that I've also lived many lives where I didn't believe in that. And I've also had many days of this life where I didn't believe in that. And yet here I am now. The most important thing is love. The only thing that is love. And love is gentle. Love is the still small voice that's spoken of in the Bible as the voice of God. And that still small voice finds us gently where we are and welcomes us and holds the space for us to take the step forward too. To sum it up, just affirm for yourself that you are communicating from the real you. I have a couple of affirmations here for you if you'd like, and if you want to write them down right now as I go, or you could come back later and replay it and write them down, but I'll just give you a few. The energy of my real self is felt by and reacted to in a positive manner as it is received in communications with others. I'll say it again. The energy of my real self is felt by and reacted to in a positive manner as it is received in communications with others. And one more. I speak to them not in words of men, but in words of spirit. And now, some of you may recognize that. That was spoken by Jesus Christ. And I think that is a beautiful way to frame that sacred truth, that truth. It was spoken by Jesus in that sacred text. I speak to them not in the words of men, but in the words of spirit. You know, the words of men being that suggestion from a fearful and unevolved society, but the words of spirit, which is eternal, expanded, and the essence of pure love, the essence of creator energy. That is what makes us successful. That is what creates worlds, and that is what you're here to do. And that is the end of the lesson.